Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for Insights this year. This is our first session, and it's KeyMark's Total Solution, which will be presented by Ben Vaughn, the Director of our Solutions Architects here at KeyMark. If you have any questions during this presentation, please submit them in the question and answer box in the bottom right of your screen, and make sure that you select host and presenter or Ben's name so that he is able to view those questions. We will also have time for questions at the end. So over to you, Ben.
All right, thanks, Alex. Thanks everybody for joining our first and hopefully only virtual Insights session. I know I'm personally ready to get back into in-person conferences. I would much rather be on a stage in front of 100 people than sitting here in my office by myself talking to my webcam. But you'll appreciate that. Before the conference, I moved all the mess off my desk here, so hopefully it looks like I'm somewhat clean and organized in here. But I'm happy to be on here today and happy to talk to all you guys and hopefully provide some good information today for you. So for those that I have not met in person yet, my name is Ben Vaughn. I'm the Director of the Solutions Architect team here at KeyMark. I've been here just over 15 years now. So have been through a little bit and seen a little bit. So hopefully I can give you some good info today on kind of KeyMark's overall solution. So what I'm going to kind of walk through today is, who is KeyMark? What can we bring to the table? What areas can we assist your organization in? So to kind of start that off, the first question I have is, who is KeyMark? So who do people think that KeyMark is? This is one of my favorite things to kind of find out whenever I go on site or I see emails that have been sent around about a meeting that's coming up with KeyMark. Who are these people that we're meeting with? Who's coming in here? So a lot of folks, it's kind of funny, the first thing we hear is, oh, OnBase. There's a perception out there that KeyMark and OnBase are the same people. There's no realization that KeyMark is a systems integrator who works with multiple technologies and implements OnBase. We're just the OnBase people. So I always kind of get a chuckle with that. The others are, there are our AP workflow software folks. That's all they do for us. That's all they can do is just run an AP workflow or, one other area of the business. Scanning software. They're the people who just do that software. We put our documents in the scanner and they scan in, and that's what KeyMark does. That's all they are. The last one, there's people who almost got thrown out of the bar at whatever conference that may be. So those of you who have been to in-person conferences with us before, and I can see the attendee list here, and I know some of you are nodding your head. Understand that, at KeyMark, we like to work hard, but we also play hard after hours. So we may be known for some of that as well whenever we go, but all of those are wrong, except for the bar one is kind of a little bit true. We do like to have fun, but they're wrong about who KeyMark is. So who are we? We are intelligent automators. So, all of those things I mentioned before, we are those, but we also do so much more than that. So the goal of today's session is to kind of talk through that and hopefully open up your eyes to see all the other areas that we can help in as projects come up in the future. How can we help you with your intelligent automation goals? So the primary business function at KeyMark is to help our customers implement solutions that improve productivity by automating processes. So, not limited to one certain application, one certain technology, one certain area of the organization. Our goal is to be consultative about all of this. So as things come up, bring us in, call us. We can look at, what you're doing, what those processes are, and tell you if we have something that helps, or tell you if we don't have something that helps, and help you find something else to use. But that is our goal, is to be that trusted partner, that consultant that you lean on to help you evaluate those things to make your process more efficient. So, that goal is to help you launch your organization into the future and to start automating things intelligently, across the organization. So to kind of walk through the different areas of our solution, I'm going to use this diagram to sort of relay that, in a graphical way. So different areas here, your existing systems. Everybody's got probably an ERP system. Everybody may have an HRIS system, CRM systems. That's not what we do. We're not implementing those types of systems. There's plenty of great commercial off-the-shelf tools. They're out there for that, but they're part of your ecosystem. They're extremely important. They are mission critical applications, that, we need to work with, to integrate with, we need to take into account as we look at things. We are meant to be complementary to those, so helping with processes that those tools don't cover for you. Different workflows and different areas around that you need to have a solution for. That's kind of where we fit in. So the next part is, that is the core of what we do. In this case, the core of the Rocket, things like just standard ECM or content services, so scanning and document storage, workflow, case management, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, but that is the core of what KeyMark is. Almost everybody, I believe, on the call is, or as an OnBase customer, has used OnBase, so that is the core of what we do. And the bottom left down there, you'll see mission control, so the implementation, the training, and the support that we provide. The KeyMark staff provides that to kind of oversee everything that's going on. So the next area is the fuel that feeds that core. So how do we get data and information into that core to be able to make those business decisions, to be able to run that workflow? So that's where things come in, like, capture, OCR, so getting documents, getting data into the system, mobile capture, so using cell phones to capture documents, and I'll be talking about that as well. Forms automation, so how can we make form processes better to feed data into the system? Business process outsourcing services we can provide to help you guys with that. Sort of the nose of the rocket here, if you will, is robotic process automation. So, that's something that we're seeing a ton more of right now, but that kind of helps guide that core. So where does it need to go? Where does that process need to go based on different information? So being able to guide that core using tools like RPA, which again, I'll be discussing. The bottom right here, the satellites, is reporting. So you've got to know what's going on to be able to make changes, to be able to become more efficient. So without proper reporting, you may be having a bad process out there that is, is causing issues and you don't even know about it. You can't change things if you don't know about them. So reporting is extremely important, part of an overall solution. And in the upper left, the last one here is virtual collaboration. So this has become more important than ever, in these COVID times that we live in, where, previously it was every interaction you had with your constituents or customers or whatever it may be was, potentially a face-to-face interaction. Now we're seeing a lot more of that go towards virtual collaboration, where I'm working with somebody through video conferences, through, telephone calls, whatever that may be, but I need to be able to archive that and store that so that it, becomes part of an overall case for that person. So, we've got some tools that help with virtual collaboration as well. So, here's just kind of an overall picture of all the different areas that we work in. And then for each one of those, we have a variety of tools that we can bring to the table. So, for the core, we typically would use OnBase as our core to handle the ECM side of things, the workflow and case management. Mission control in the bottom left, that is what KeyMark does. That is what we excel at. We've got an amazing team of people for implementation, for our support, for our training. So, that is our goal, is to be that mission control and help guide your solution and help support that as it goes. For the fuel, bringing in capture, forms automation, we have multiple different tools for that as well. The reporting, or sorry, the RPA side of things, we have multiple RPA tools that all kind of fit into different areas and play different roles. So from Blue Prism to Kofax to Holland RPA, we have access to all of those tools to implement. From a reporting standpoint, using Holland reporting dashboards, using a tool from Abby called Timeline for process intelligence that I'll be discussing as well. So to kind of get that full overall view of your solution, how it's performing. And then for virtual collaboration, we use a tool called LiveGenit that I'll be discussing. So I'm going to kind of start off with OnBase here. So, I could spend a day, 2 days sitting here talking about all the various different things that OnBase can do, but I just want to stress that, OnBase is more than just a file cabinet. I see, fairly often folks that just think that's all it can do, or that may be all they use it for. So they just think, oh, that's just where I store documents and I retrieve documents, and that's all I do with it. I liken that to having a Lamborghini and I just drive it down to the corner to drop the kids off for school and drive it back home. There's so much more besides that it can do, but just for brevity today and to keep it simple, I'm going to kind of focus on one area that we've seen a lot of folks starting to use and a lot of development going into it. So, in my mind, it is the future of what, OnBase can do and what, everybody would be using it for. And that is what OnBase refers to as WorkView, what is referred to as in the industry as case management, rapid application development, multitude of different things. But the idea of WorkView is it is a low code or potentially no code, depending on what you're trying to do, framework that lets citizen developers, so the actual people, the business, power users, to be able to go in and create applications tailored exactly to the needs of your users or departments in the organization. So, you're building those applications to work exactly as you need to versus taking another application and trying to, change your processes or change the things you're doing to fit into that application. So just a quick, screenshot example here of how WorkView could be used, how case management could be used. So this is from a grants management application. So an application is built to handle the request for grants, the review of those, processing those requests, applying for grants, once they're approved, being able to monitor those grants after the fact, monitor the funds of those grants, how they're being spent, how disbursements are being made, et cetera, archiving that grant after the fact with all that information. So, if you showed this screen to somebody and said, this is OnBase, some folks might be like, what are you talking about? This isn't OnBase. I don't see any, document retrievable screen here. I don't see a TIFF image on the screen. Well, this is all, built under that OnBase framework. So this is meant to manage data. It also manages documents as well. So documents related to that data. But I mean, you'll see that we're managing all the requester information, the budget information about that grant, the timeline of that grant. In the middle here, you'll see there's an assessment being done on this request to make sure that everything meets a certain criteria to move forward with it. On the right-hand side, I mean, you'll see there's an area for documents. There's going to be documents associated with a grant request and associated with, grants moving forward, receipts and things like that. So, you can manage those documents in OnBase, but have them tied directly back to this case, if you will, but in this case, a grant object. I can manage tasks around that. So what tasks need to be done over the life of a grant. So this is just a kind of a simple example. We've seen a lot of interest in grants management, especially in the public sector, government agencies, healthcare agencies. Right now is a time where everybody's trying to get grants in to help fund different projects they're doing, and they need systems to be able to accurately manage those going forward. So, if as an OnBase user, something like this is a perfect fit for what WorkView can do. So where does WorkView fit? The first bullet point is where I've seen the most success with it, which is spreadsheets. So, I can almost guarantee that everybody on the phone right now has that spreadsheet out on the network somewhere where everybody's accessing it. People are just going in and changing data. People are probably, it's got 17 tabs across the bottom. They're copying information from that spreadsheet, putting it into another related spreadsheet that so-and-so in this area needs to manage that data, same data, but they got to manage it differently in their spreadsheet. So anything like that is typically a perfect fit for something like WorkView, because WorkView is meant to manage that data. It's meant to manage the relationships between the data. So there's one true source of it. Everybody sees the view that they need to see of that data, but you're not passing spreadsheets back and forth. They're 10 megs each. Other areas are older access databases, with a front end built for that, Lotus Notes databases. So, we see a lot of this where somebody built that, 20 years ago. They've just been using it. Looks the same, it acts the same every time, but the technology is old and it's not easy to expand. It's not easy to make updates to. They're looking for a new platform to host these on. So, if you have some of those sitting around your organization, there's certain candidates for using WorkView to do something like this. Very similar with other aging, custom applications, homegrown applications. So, somebody built it 20 years ago, they've retired since, nobody knows how to get in and do anything with it. It's just sitting out there and we're using it. So this area is, WorkView's not always a fit. Sometimes it is. It is an area where, I feel like we've excelled at being able to determine that. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were on site with an organization. They were showing us an older application they had, kind of evaluated it and said, look, WorkView can probably help, 60% of this, but there's 40% of this that does not make sense to build out in OnBase WorkView. That needs to be done by a custom application development company. So, it's not the be all end all, the perfect thing, it's going to fit every need, but that's where we come in as that consultant. Hey, I've got this old application, need to replace it with something. Can you guys come in and take a look at it and let us know if WorkView would be a fit for you? That's exactly what we do, and that's where we excel. So I want to give you the opportunity to be able to try it yourself. So if you'll see here this URL, and you can just go to the try.highland.com site and click on the HotOnExchange if you've never used it before. I highly recommend just going through and taking a look at it. So it does give you the ability to download solutions and actually try it yourself. They do require a WorkView license. So if you don't have a WorkView license, contact your account manager. We'll be happy to get you, an eval license that you can use for a certain amount of time just to sort of try out some of these solutions. So here's just a few examples of what they have on the HotOnExchange. These are several are cross industry, so applicable to any industry. Some are specific. So, asset management. Anybody could, everybody has assets they got to manage. Complaint management. Everybody deals with complaints. HR stuff, inspections, investigations. Physical records. Grants if you're a higher ed organization or government or healthcare. So, each one of these you'll see is blue. So each one of these is a link that'll take you to a page that's going to give you more information about that solution. So using that asset management example, here's a solution overview about what this actually is. Here's some of the business challenges that can be addressed by this. Here's what the solution entails. Several of these have demo labs that you can actually click on that have the solution already up and running. So you can just kind of click through it and take a look at it. But they also give you the ability to download the EXPK file that you can import directly into your OnBase test system to set up and start using this application. And these applications are not, not something you're just going to plug in and start using in production immediately and everything's great. They are meant to be an example of a solution and a starting point, a building block to build out your solution as you need to. But it's a great way to get familiar with WorkView and kind of, the look and feel, how that works and what the back end of it looks like. Each one of these have a solution brief, 1 to 2 page document that's going to tell you about what the solution is, an import guide that's going to teach you how to import it into your system, some screenshots of, certain functionality within the system, an idea of the data structure, so how's all the data related between the objects and the attributes, and then recommended licensing that would be needed for that type of solution. So just this asset management solution, if I were to click download and then turn around and import that into my system, here's an example of what that might look like. So this is a WorkView application, again, downloadable off trial, where I can manage all the details around an asset, request for that asset, what is the asset, what are tasks related to that asset, notes around things that happen with that, documents related to it, emails, whatever that may be. So, just with a click and an import, I'm able to kind of, get that starting point of building out a solution. So again, kind of as an action item after this, I'd certainly encourage everybody to go out there and take a look at the try.highland.com site and the HotOnExchange on there, and just see if any of those make, or interest you or make sense to something that you're looking for in your organization. And again, reach out to us if you need a WorkView license to start, using those and see what they look like. So while we're on the WorkView topic, I am lucky enough to be the one to announce that KeyMark will be introducing something called Flex for OnBase. So this is a pre-configured WorkView routing solution or WorkView routing framework. So we're launching this in the next coming weeks. We're kind of limiting the number of customers we're going to launch this to that we want to work with, but we are opening this up as part of Insights. If you are interested in something like this, let your account manager know, and we can certainly, work with you to get something installed. So what is Flex for OnBase? So, we sort of found a need for organizations that need to use WorkView to manage cases, manage objects, whatever that may be, but they have complex routing around that. So, if I'm managing, I'll go back to the grant example. So if I'm managing a grant and I've got a request comes in, and depending on the organization, it needs to go down one of 4 different paths. Well, once it gets down one of those 4 paths, depending on the dollar amount, maybe it splits off again into 2 different paths. And then maybe once it gets down there, depending on the state that it's in, it splits into one of 50 different paths. So things like that, where you have very complex routing rules, where objects or cases need to go through a variety of different processes, certain steps need to take place depending on a certain attribute on that case. So if For those of you that have done OnBase WorkView, or excuse me, workflow configuration, you'll know that trying to build something like that in a workflow queue, you're just going to have nested true falses forever. You know, is state equal to South Carolina? On true, do this. On false, well, is it equal to Georgia? True, do this. False, do that, and so on. So, you know, for those complex scenarios, you know, you got to get pretty deep into workflow configuration. You got to have somebody pretty smart to do all that kind of stuff. Well, what Flex for OnBase does is gives you the ability to manage all those rules directly within WorkView. So from a Unity client or web client, not in configuration, but a power user can go on one of those clients and say, okay, I need to set this up where, you know, if state equals South Carolina, this attribute equals South Carolina needs to go through these 4 steps. If dollar amount is over XYZ, it needs to go through these 8 steps. So it allows you to go in and build those routing rules out as a power user, you know, in those interfaces without having to worry about the technical aspects of building out a workflow configuration. So if you're somebody who's, you know, currently using WorkView or have an application for WorkView, but have just decided that the routing stuff is too tough, too hard to do, you know, let us know. We're certainly be interested in you know, getting Flex for OnBase, you know, presented to you in front of you to kind of see if that might meet your needs. So moving on from OnBase, let's talk a little bit about OCR. So, you know, OCR has been around forever. A lot of folks are out there using it. You know, it was machine learning and artificial intelligence before those terms became cool. So, you know, OCR, for those that don't know, is the ability to read machine printed text off of a scanned piece of paper and turn that into data to pass into backend systems. So what does OCR look like in kind of the current model, or what I call the old model? So that is, I've got on-premise servers or virtual machines. So at your organization, you know, there's servers running in the IT room or virtual machines that's got the software on there running to ingest all the documents that are being scanned, perform the OCR, perform rules, release those out. You know, for those of you that have been doing OCR, you're familiar with kind of a per click fee. So I've got to say, I think I'm going to scan 1,000,000 pages this year. Well, if I'm scanning 600,000 pages, I've paid for 400,000 that I'm not using. If I'm scanning 1.2 million pages, I'm scrambling around at the end of that million pages trying to order more clicks or more documents for something that might not be budgeted to bring in. So it's kind of hard to manage from that aspect. The third point is administrator. So whenever tweaks need to be made, something needs to be changed in the system, well, hopefully there's an administrator on staff, but OCR is not something you're touching every day. So you've got an administrator who probably got trained on it, 4 or 5 years ago. They touch it 1 or 2 times a year, and every time they do, they have to basically retrain themselves on how to use it so they can go in and make this little change that you need. So now, hey, I need to add this field on this document. It's taking 3 weeks to get done because your admin's got to figure all that information out. So how do we solve that with a newer model? Well, the newer model is basically delivering OCR as a service versus being an on-prem application. So what that means is no more servers on-prem, being able to decommission those servers or VMs or utilize it for something else. A flexible payment model. So finding a payment model that works for your business. That may be a per page payment model. That may be a per document or per transaction payment model. Maybe you've got a different scenario where, you only need one piece of data off of each document and you're paying for that. So, because this is a service-based model, there's a lot more flexibility around how, it's billed and paid. Leaving the admin up to trained professionals. So by having this in place, the folks who are maintaining the OCR as a service system, that's what they do day in and day out. They're in the software all the time. So a change needs to be made. It can be done very quickly and done by somebody who knows what they're doing to make sure that it's done right. So how does KeyMark offer this? So we offer this through a tool we call Cloud Capture. So this is our document processing service tool. It is the OCR as a service in the cloud. So how it works is, your documents come into your organization. So those might be paper coming in, paper being dropped off. They might be email attachments, whatever that may be. We provide you with the ability to scan those paper documents or send an email attachment in to the KeyMark Cloud Capture service. We're going to ingest those files our OCR tool is going to classify those files and perform OCR processing. So based on our agreement with you, we're going to extract, whatever fields need to be extracted, using the appropriate tool for that. So, to your end, it's a black box. I mean, the tool being used on the back end doesn't necessarily matter because we're going to use the best tool for the job. Once we've gotten that data extracted, the next piece is human validation. So we've got a couple different options here. One is we can provide you with access to go in and have your staff go in and validate data that's been OCR'd. The other option is that we have staff, in our headquarters, and their job is to go in and do validation for our customers. So if you want to completely outsource your OCR, we can handle the validation for you. So all you have to worry about is sending in a document and getting back clean data in the image of that document. So that's kind of that last step, which is the document return. So we provide, here's all the data that's been extracted, here's the original image, and then you can ingest it into whatever backend system, be it OnBase or be it something else, you can bring it into that backend system. So along the same lines of the fuel and the capture side of things is mobile capture. So, everybody's, I won't say everybody, but almost everybody has a phone in their hand that's got a pretty decent camera on that, and they know how to use it. Us at KeyMark have been looking for years to find the right mobile capture solution for us, but mainly the right mobile capture solution for our customers to use. Typically in the past, it's been very app driven. So if you wanted to do mobile capture, you had to build an app. That makes sense if I'm Bank of America or, a large financial institution. I could build an app that people are going to use. Part of that app, they take a phone out and take a picture of their check to deposit it. For other organizations, they don't want to be in the app development business. They don't want to have to maintain an app on the Apple App Store and Google Play and all that kind of stuff. So, we've been looking for what the right solution for that is. And what we found is Abby Mobile Web Capture. So Abby is a partner of KeyMark, and they have a mobile web capture interface that is extremely lightweight. It is all HTML based. So I can plug it into an existing website that I have. I can create a new website and have that mobile capture control built into that as well. So I'm not having to be in the app development business. I'm just saying, hey, from our website, you can click a button that says capture document when you're on a phone and submit a document to us. Or here's a link to go in and to give us a document. So I wanted to allow everybody to actually be able to try this for themselves. So from your phone, you can go to mobilewebcapture.com, or if you've got it sitting on your desk, you can take a picture of the QR code with your camera down there. But what that's going to do is take you to just kind of a very simple demo website that shows you, without having any app on your phone, you can click a button. It's going to engage your camera. You can just hold it up over a document. It's going to detect the edges of that document, automatically snap the picture for you, and provide the image. So it's pretty neat technology. Been playing around with it a lot. We've got some folks that are out there using it now. So if you are an organization that has a need for something like that, you want to push the capture of documents down to your customers or constituents, this is certainly an option, and reach out to us if you want to do more with it. So I want to challenge everybody after today's sessions to spend 30 minutes on your website. Look around for forms that are sitting out there. I guarantee you everybody's website has forms on there somewhere. Ask yourself, is this the most efficient way for us to have these forms out here? I can almost guarantee you all of them are going to be links to a PDF that's just going to open in the browser, and it's just a PDF file sitting there. Maybe if you're lucky, it's a fillable PDF, but chances are, there's not a lot of those out there. Why are you doing it that way? Ask yourself, is it just because, well, we've always done it that way? That's just what we have. We have a link on our website, and that's what we do. Or can that be more efficient? So, this is the process that I see all the time, where I've got somebody who needs to give me information. Well, they probably go to my website on their phone. They're looking at it and, well, there's the form I need. Well, okay, it's PDF. I've got to print it out. So now I've got to go to my laptop, go back to the website, find that form, hit print that out. Again, if you're lucky, it might be a fillable form. So they're typing it in and then printing that out. If not, they're handwriting all the information on there. Then they're sticking in an envelope, or maybe if you're lucky, they're bringing it to your office. But either way, there's time passes. You know, it may be a day to get it in, it may be a week to get it in. So, you know, there's time that passes through there. Once you get it in your organization, hopefully you're taking it out and scanning it into a backend system, you know, or you're just using that piece of paper. But, you know, if you're more advanced, maybe you're doing some OCR on that form to gather all the data off of it. But chances are somebody's probably looking at that document in front of their keyboard with another system pulled up on their other screen, keying data directly off that document into a backend system. You know, again, see this time and time again. It's not an efficient process by any means to get data from an outside party into your backend systems. So how do we address that? So the KeyMark Forms of Motion tool that we've developed internally, you know, eliminates all that out of the process. It is, I fill out a form, I press submit, that data gets pushed immediately into whatever backend system it needs to go to. So, you know, we're essentially think of it as just you know, a framework for storing all of those forms. So whenever I go to, you know, whenever someone goes to your website and clicks on that form, rather than just open up as a PDF in your browser, it can still open as a PDF, but it's in a backend system where they hit submit, they can get a copy of it, and all that data gets fed directly into that backend system. You know, we completely supports PDFs. So if you are one of those PDF folks that have nothing but PDFs out there, we can import those immediately, make them fillable if they're not fillable, and have people be able to start using those as actual data forms. And we can handle things like notarization as well. So if a form needs to be notarized, you know, somebody can fill out that PDF, hit save or submit, that can still go ahead and push all the data into the backend system, but give them a copy of the form with a barcode on it. You know, take that to their notary, sign it, wet ink, have the notarization done, send it back in. When they send that back in, scan it, read that barcode. Now we can tie it directly to the transaction for where the data was submitted. So you're not, you know, preventing that process from moving forward while you're just waiting on that notarized form to come in. So we can certainly handle things like that. I also encourage folks for the, you know, the higher volumes or more complex forms, you know, look at redesigning that as responsive HTML form. You know, I mentioned the phone earlier. People are going to your website, they're on their phone or they're on an iPad. So that's not the greatest interface to fill out a PDF form. You know, by using tools, you know, to make forms more responsive, I can take those same types of forms and make them where they'll conform to my screen, make them more intelligent where different data will change on the form as I'm choosing different options to make sure that it's not overwhelming for someone. And it's just, you know, people are getting used to that type of interactions now online to be able to be a true, you know, HTML, a true responsive type interface. So just something to think of. You know, we certainly will give you the ability to try this yourself as well. So, you know, if you are interested in something like this, contact your account manager. If you identify a form that you think would be a good candidate for that, we can actually put your, you know, your PDF into a Forms in Motion instance, give you a link for it, and you can start filling it out, see what happens. You know, we can email you the results back so you can see what the data looks like, what the form looks like. You know, that's very easy from our side to stand up and provide to you. So, you know, if you're interested, reach out to your account manager and they can work with my team and we'll get that set up for you. All right, next area, robotic process automation. So this is something that is probably in the news just about every day. It is a scary sounding term for some people because they, you know, robots are coming to take my job. A lot of folks get worried about that, but, you know, the way we look at it is let RPA help those workers. Let them handle those tasks that are, you know, repetitive. They don't require a ton of knowledge, and it's just things that people are having to do over and over again. So, you know, what is RPA? Well, it's software that you can program to execute those computer-based business tasks. It's just repetitive, labor-intensive stuff. You know, it's not, we're trying to take somebody's job. We're trying to, you know, replace human beings with robots. It is, you know, you've got knowledgeable workers sitting out there every day doing things that are just absolutely brain numbing, but they have to be done. And the people who do them are the people who are in that process, but they have a ton of knowledge, but they're doing things that don't require that knowledge. They're turning around and running searches online. They're turning around and keying data into another application. things like that. I mean, that does not require knowledge. It's the same thing that happens over and over again. But you can automate those processes and free up those knowledge workers to work on things that require their knowledge, work on the exceptions, work on making processes better, things like that, and just let a digital worker handle all of that, menial, labor-intensive stuff that's out there. So a few benefits, automating those tasks that I mentioned. Processes times are obviously reduced because they can run through various things much faster than a human could. You don't have to worry about fat fingering data that's being entered in. We've seen it be used to integrate systems. So I've got this system over here that's got an API that I can push data into, but this system doesn't have the ability to push data out to an API. Well, let's take this system, get the data out of it with a digital worker who can then push it to this API to handle those integration between the two. Being able to run, 24/7, 365. Digital workers don't need breaks. They don't need vacations. They can run, data all day long if we need to. So, I'm not getting too deep into this because we'll have a session later, but the goal is use RPA to empower your people, free them up to actually create and build things and use their knowledge where it matters. Don't waste somebody's knowledge just keying stuff into a random system somewhere or running searches online. So there is the ability to try this yourself. I mentioned Blue Prism was one of our RPA partners. They have a learning edition. I've got the URL here, but you can just go online and search for Blue Prism Learning Edition or reach out to your account manager. We can give you the instructions on how to do that. But this actually lets you download the tool, install it. It comes with 10 different labs, I believe, so you can actually run through the labs and see what it's like, see how easy it is to set up a digital worker and the different things that it can do. But it's extremely powerful. It is very easy for somebody, without a lot of technical knowledge to be able to go in and do that. This afternoon at 1 o'clock, we have a couple of folks from our RPA team will be presenting about, RPA market overview, how do you plan for RPA, as well as a live integration between Blue Prism and OnBase. So pushing documents and data into OnBase from Blue Prism using some assets that KeyMark has developed. So next area is the reporting aspects of things. So process intelligence. The goal there is you can't improve what you don't understand. If you don't know there are issues out there, you can't make those issues better. So what is process intelligence? So it is the application of advanced analytics, but also predictive analytics. So based on this same thing happening over and over again, we now predict that here's what's going to happen if you change one part of that. So measuring that data over time, monitoring systems, driving that continuous improvement. That is the process intelligence. So how does that work? The tool that we use for this is also provided by Abby. It's called Timeline. So what that does is it loads structured data, can be from multiple systems, and essentially makes a timeline for each interaction. So all it needs to start is 3 pieces of data. So we just need a time and a date stamp. When did something happen? We need a description for what that was. So some kind of event to match back to that time and date stamp. And then a unique ID to tie a single transaction together. Again, this can be across multiple systems as long as that unique ID stays the same between those systems. We can tie all that together. Additional information is great. It certainly helps kind of plan out your timeline. It allows you to filter and do things differently as well. But if we just know an event, what took place, which transaction did it take place on, and when did that happen, you can immediately start building out timelines. So just by importing that data, it analyzes all of that data and then puts each one of those into an individual timeline. And there are, I think, 25 kind of pre-built modules that let you look at those. So in this case, this is a detailed case analysis. So you can drill down into any one of those and see exactly what happened at what time. You can assign values to each one of these things. How much does it cost us for this to happen? If you look down there on the bottom right hand side, it'll show you what's the gaps in between things, what's the duration of that, what events happened, what was the cost of that. So that's case analysis. There's also a process pattern search. So in this case, I'm building out, show me all the timelines where fraud checks did not happen, but these other steps did happen, and times were more than 4 days or whatever that may be. But These are kind of searches that allow you to build and find timelines that meet certain criteria so that you can start analyzing those and figuring out why why that happened. And then the last is kind of workflow journey mapping. So things that are queue-based, think about OnBase workflow. If I've got documents feeding through OnBase workflow queues, I can import my, OnBase history, my transaction log into here and see what happened throughout each one of those individual transactions. What are my patterns that I'm looking for? Maybe it's always stopping in a certain person's queue, and I need to figure out why that's happening. So this is just kind of one of the pre-built sort of modules, and there's over, I think I said 25 maybe pre-built modules that you can just ingest data into and start using. So, we can certainly, use Timeline to ingest some of your data. If you want to see what it looks like in there, contact us. We've got a trial instance of Timeline we have stood up that we can use for things like this. So we can certainly help you out with that if you're interested in that. The last area I'll talk about here is virtual collaboration. So I mentioned that earlier. Folks don't want to do things in person right now. They want to do everything virtually. So the tools we have here is a tool known as LiveGenic. So it started out in the insurance claims industry years ago, where it allows claims adjusters to talk to insureds completely remotely. So I've got hail damage on my car. I need to submit a claim. Well, it costs a lot more money for me to drive somebody out to your house, take a look at your car and say, yep, that's hail damage, versus saying, hey, hop on this, hop on our app. I can see the claims agent. They can see me. They can tell me what to do, what to show with my phone, what to take pictures of, gather all that data, and store it on the back end. Well, there's a ton more application for that, especially now, because everybody needs to start working with their customers, constituents remotely. So we're seeing a lot of new and exciting areas for virtual collaboration. Gives you the ability to take live video, offline video. There's app-based options, but there's also web-based options. So the end user, whoever that may be, doesn't have to have an app on their phone. They get a link, they click on it, they can start interacting with you. And all that can be stored in the cloud, or we can archive it back in OnBase. So I won't go through all of these. I've just got this in here in case we need it later. But there's web-based options, which you see on the left here. Again, no app. If it's somebody who is going to be doing a lot of interactions with you, there is the ability to have an app. And these use the word claim, but you call it case, call it whatever you want to. You can certainly brand these as you need to. And then an app for internal people. So if we do need to send people out to have in-person meetings, they can have an app that's got all the data that's already been gathered for that particular case. And it's just an example of the view for an internal person. What do I see? All the information. I can start a new video call. I can start a phone call with that as well. And we have a kind of a click-through demo on our website. So if you go to keymarkink.com/livegenic-demo, you can actually run through it yourself to see what that looks like. Or if you want to contact your account manager, we can set up a session with you where we actually send you a link and can communicate with you back and forth so you can see what that looks like. So real quickly at the end here, I just want to kind of go through an end-to-end example of using all of these tools. What does that look like in a very genericized fashion? We've got people on the phone from all kinds of different industries, so I didn't want to get too particular with it, but imagine a process where, your customer, your end user, whoever that may be, goes online to a responsive form, submits that information. That information goes directly into OnBase and creates a new case within WorkView. So we've taken all that data from the form. We've now created a new case within WorkView where we have all of the data that's been submitted. From there, certain things might need to take place. Maybe I've got to go run a background check. Maybe I've got to go to every website for every state in the country to go run a search on this person's name to see if there's any details out there, whatever that may be. That's something that's very time intensive and repetitive and manual for a human to do. But by using Blue Prism, OnBase can take all that data and say, hey, Blue Prism digital worker, go do this. Blue Prism in turn goes out, runs all these websites, grabs screenshots, grabs data, whatever that may be, pushes all that information back into OnBase to be part of that case. So it's now available to the caseworker. Once that's done, the caseworker gets the case back, reads through all of that and says, well, you know what? We need to get an additional document from this person, get a proof of residency, a pay stub, whatever that may be. So they click a button, which then sends an email back to the submitter and says, hey, we need document XYZ. Click on this link to provide it to us from your phone. They click on that link, which is an Abby mobile web capture link, put the document on their desk, take a picture of it, hit submit. Well, that document may have data on it that needs to be extracted to be added back to the case. So from mobile web capture, we can submit that into cloud capture where it gets OCR, that data gets validated. Now that document, all the data extracted from it gets pushed right back into the case in OnBase to continue working. From there, the caseworker, whoever's assigned to that, looks at it and says, okay, that's great. We've got everything we need, but I still need to have a conversation with this person. Well, they click another button. That's going to send a link that says we need to have a conversation, or I need a video of this, or whatever it may be. That's going to use LiveGenics. So now we're having a real-time back and forth conversation in person, or not in person, but where we can see each other, or maybe a phone call. But all of that's getting recorded, getting archived in LiveGenics, at which point we push, we consider that closed, push all that back into OnBase. Well, now I've got the original form, the form data, the documents that have been submitted after that, the Blue Prism stuff or the RPA stuff that's gone out to websites and been come in, and now I've got documented video, audio interactions with that person. So I now have everything that I need as part of that case, so I can now work that case through completion. Well, imagine that happening over and over and over and over again. Now let's take all that data, push it in the timeline, and I can look at each one of those interactions in its own timeline and start to identify trends, understand what is, what's happening through here. Where can we make process more efficient? Where can we use automation to make things better and keep continuously improving that process? So just kind of a quick ending example using all the tools that we just mentioned through here. So with that, I will check with questions. I know we're about a minute over time here. So it looks like we got one question about the RPA compared to some other tools. So mentioning UiPath specifically and feature rich. So it certainly is. So again, we bring 3 different RPA tools to the table. They all kind of have certain areas that they play in best. There are 3 kind of the big 3 that are out there: Blue Prism, UiPath, and Automation Anywhere. Each of those have their own strength in their own areas. That's a lot to try to go into in 2 minutes on the phone, but to the person that asked that question, certainly reach out to account manager. We've got information we provide around that. We've got, folks who are experienced in multiple tools that can kind of help discuss that and kind of figure out where the best fit for that is. So if there are any other questions, feel free to submit them to the Q&A panel right now. I'll leave my contact information up here for just a second in case anybody needs it. Feel free to email me or call me or whatever after this if you have any questions about what I submitted. So there's a question if we'll have access to this conference. Alex, are you recording this or just sending out slides afterwards?
I am recording this session and will be able to provide that recording to anyone who wants it afterwards.
Okay. Yep, so we will.
I did want to mention that if anybody has any more questions about RPA and in comparison to other tools, our session this afternoon on RPA is a market overview. And it will, we also have our RPA one-on-one meetings where you can sit down with our RPA team and discuss more in depth. Those will be tomorrow.
All right. Well, with that, again, thank you guys for coming. I know these virtual sessions are kind of tough to sit through. I've sat through many of them myself. So hopefully that wasn't as bad as some of the other ones, but I'd certainly appreciate you guys joining us. And again, reach out to me if you have any questions or your account manager, and they can certainly put us in touch. But again, thank you guys, and I hope everything else goes well on the other sessions today.
Thank you, everyone.